All right, so I'm going to show my age and maybe your age as well here a little bit, but I think back to when we first met at the racetrack, and we're talking 2+ decades ago at this point. At that time, I was heavily invested in the IHRA series, and you guys were a big part of it from a business standpoint. I think, if memory serves, at that point, you had kind of transitioned out of racing yourself, had growing family at that point, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, probably in the mid '90s, I was racing cars and in IHRA,
Right.
doing the super rod and quick rod, and eventually some top sportsman stuff here and there. But late '90s, the family kept growing, and different priorities took hold, and even the business was growing exponentially at that point. And it needed all hands on deck here, and definitely needed all hands on deck at the house. So yeah, we took a break from racing for a while.
And I feel like during that time, we went from IHRA racing to a little bit of big dollar bracket racing, and then we started to transition back into, or really for the first time in my career, into the NHRA Lucas Oil Series about the time that you really got back into racing, and that's when I really remember our paths crossing on a friendship and a racing standpoint.
Yep, I absolutely remember it exactly the same way. I'd kind of intentionally stayed away from racetracks for a good while, and knowing that if I went back racing again, it was going to be wide open. And I went to some local events here just at Muncie, sat in a couple of cars, and all of a sudden we had a dragster that I was intending to run. I was like, oh, this thing runs 490s or 480s in the eighth. This is all I'm ever going to need. This is great.
How long did that last?
It lasted. Let's see. We raced it a couple of times that fall. This was, I guess, fall of '08, and raced it that way through and into NHR. I had never been to an NHR race of any kind, and started racing Division III stuff in 2009. And I got tired real quickly of people chasing me down the whole time. Because 890 at 168 or 170, it wasn't good even in the mid 2000s. So I quickly found myself in a faster motor that a couple years later got nitrous on it. Then it was a top dragster car, and then we got different motors, and then we ended up with Pro Chargers, and it became a whole different game.
No doubt, no doubt. And shortly after your transition back behind the wheel, your son Justin followed.
He did shortly after. He played all kinds of sports and did things like that through high school, and never showed a lot of interest in it. But as soon as, in fairness to him, though, we didn't have cars
Right.
as much as they were growing up. Because I think Justin was probably maybe 8 or 9 when I got out of the driver's seat the first time, and so he wasn't really exposed to it a lot. And as soon as the first dragster showed up, he kind of was like, "Oh,
Eyes lit up a little bit. Yeah,
that's pretty neat." I'm like, "Oh, okay, here we go. I guess we may be doing this a little bit more than I thought." And soon one dragster became two, and then it was two dragsters and a roadster, and two dragsters and two roadsters, and then we had all kinds of cars. But yeah, he started 2010, 2011, something like that. He started driving as well.
And at least from the outside, it feels like his interest has gone further to spark yours. Is that fair?
That's very fair. There's no doubt at some point in this, I probably, I was lucky enough to win a few races here and there, and I probably would have been like, oh, I'm good. Let's try something else. But he definitely still has a love for it, and I do too, obviously. And it just makes a lot of sense for us to be there from a business standpoint.
Sure.
But it makes it real easy to do it when you love what you're doing anyway.
Mm-hmm. Especially when he's on board too, and you guys are enjoying it together.
He does. It's as you well know, the more you can make it a family thing, the better off it's going to be. And there's nothing like going racing with your family.
Yeah, no, that's where we're at really for the first time in my life, and it is absolutely the interest of our entire family. I mean, my wife's been more about it than I have for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now our two boys just being in a spot where our oldest is racing himself, my youngest doesn't want to be anywhere but the racetrack, and just the fact that we are sharing that passion together, and we all want to be there, we all want to go and enjoy it together. Yeah, it's made. I never thought that at this point in my life I would say like I'm having the most fun racing that I ever have, but I'm absolutely 100% there. It's funny because we look back, we've both, like most racers, transitioned in and out of various series and having specific focuses within our racing. I know with me, we've been in and out of the NHRA stuff over the years, focus on big dollar bracket racing, back to NHRA. You've gone through a similar transition of note recently. It looks like in recent years your focus has been more on big dollar bracket racing. Is that more of the same on tap for 2022 for you guys?
That's where our focus is right now. I like going, and I think as much as anything, especially with the business the way it is, it makes it hard when our schedule is dictated to us, and that's probably one of the biggest things to me. With when you're racing NHRA, you kind of have to go when they say you go, and sometimes that just doesn't work with life.
Sure.
And with the bracket racing series, there's so many different bracket races now, and we try to go to the biggest big ones, obviously, but there's also plenty of 10 and 25 and 50 rangers around that. If we've got an off weekend and we look at each other and go, hey, I don't have anything going on this weekend, where are we going to go? And we can look, and within 5 or 6 hours of here, you can always find a couple of races that that you can go to at a track that you enjoy being at. And so we maybe focus on 5 or 6 that we know we're going to hit throughout the course of the year, and then we fill it in with places that we want to go at times that fit what we want to do.
So the appealing factor is more the freedom than anything.
It really is.
We can pick and choose. If there's never a shortage for opportunities if we want to go racing, and at the same time, there's not necessarily a commitment if we want to take a week or 2 off, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There was, and if we look at the weather and go, wow, it looks to me like it might rain this weekend, there's a pretty good chance of it. We can just find something else to do that weekend. Where when we were chasing points and racing NHRA stuff all over the country, we went, well, it's going to rain, but we have to go,
right?
Just in case.
Yeah.
And as much as I enjoyed, I think we did the NHRA series for probably 10 years, approximately 10 or 11 years in a row, and we loved it and had some success doing it and things. But that the lack of freedom and getting to choose our own times and days to go was kind of what led me down a different road. On top of the fact that all of a sudden the big money bracket racing just like absolutely exploded, and there's so many different places you can go, different series, different opportunities. There's no doubt that it was kind of like a perfect storm for us, looking for something maybe a little bit different and something a little bit different showing right in our lap.
No, and that's the thing. Like you kind of take a step back and look across the racing landscape at the opportunities that are available, and there's no shortage of places to go race, right? And I think similar to where you guys are at, like it's just at different points in life, different things are appealing, right? I got 2 kids that they're getting up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and they don't really care if I raced until 8 o'clock at night or 4 o'clock in the morning. They're getting up at that same time. So some of the marathon bracket races, like after a day or 2, man, it's starting to really wear on us. Whereas the NHRA stuff is so family friendly, and we just enjoy it. So like I say, there was a time where I would have really shriveled up my nose and I'm like, I don't know if that's the path that we're going to go down, but right now it makes a ton of sense for our family.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the goal for anybody, is they've got to find what fits them. There are plenty of people that, and honestly, probably the majority of our customers, they're local guys because that's what fits their life.
Absolutely.
And that's what fits their life, fits their schedule, fits their home life, their home situations. But then there are those of us who are lucky enough to be able to travel a little bit further and a little bit more, and then it's a matter of picking what fits our lives and what we want to do.
Yeah, and what I've learned, if anything, over the years is that all of that is so fluid. You know what I mean? Like there was a time where I felt like I identified with, like, if there's a race that pays $20,000 or more, like I have to be there. That's who I am. And then you go and miss a few of them, and you realize like, oh, those races keep going, and they're successful without me. You know what I mean? And just the idea that ultimately, like we all get to make those decisions for ourselves, for our families, and there's a ton of good options out there, and it's really about checking the boxes as they best apply to you in that moment, and know that that moment may be completely different a year or 2 down the road.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think we've found, and I'm guessing you have too, Luke, is that you get to racing with all these people, and it becomes a family atmosphere, not just with your family, but with the racers as well. And years ago when we did the IHRA stuff, I mean, we loved the family atmosphere of IHRA. and didn't think there would be anything like that anywhere else. And then, you know, we left it for a while and came back and did NHRA, and you do that for long enough, and you start to get the same feel there. And now going into our third or fourth year with the bracket racing scene, you know, we go there and, you know, we were the guys that did NHRA. We didn't know any of the bracket racers. They didn't know us, but I think we've been doing it long enough now that, you know, all of a sudden you're parking with the same people and you're having dinner with the same people, and it becomes the same kind of family atmosphere. And you know, that obviously that's appealing to everyone.
Yep.
So it makes it enjoyable to be there.
Well, Rob, best of luck to you guys in 2022 and beyond.
Thank you. Same to you, Luke.